In the MPO division from the years 2013 to 2019, there were 26 major championships held. 19 of those majors were won by either Paul McBeth or by Ricky Wysocki. So in any given major during that time period, there was nearly a 75% chance that your champion would be Paul or Rick. But times have changed. The last 7 majors have all been won by different names. The last 3 majors all won by first-time major winners. The new era of disc golf is here, ushered in with major wins by Gannon Buhr and Isaac Robinson, and your latest, newest major champion, Corey Ellis. My name is Mason, and welcome to The Wind Read. Today, I want to discuss the significance of Corey's win in this new era. I want to try to predict the future of the division, as well as unpack the triumph in the heartbreak that was the European Open. Let's get into it. Like I mentioned earlier, the last 3 MPO majors have been won by first-timers. This undoubtedly signals a changing of the guard. So, where do we go from here? I think the obvious answer is that this number will continue increasing. I mean, look at some of the names that were in contention to win this thing. You had Anthony Barella, Calvin Heimburg, Kyle Klein, none of whom possesses a major title. There is heaps and heaps of talent flooding into disc golf. This was no more on display this weekend, where we got to see firsthand some of the elite talent that's been crushing it in Europe, like Mauri Vilman and Rasmus Sakoripi. I could list 20 to 30 names in MPO right now that have the potential to win a major. This hasn't always been the case. And one factor I think goes under the radar when we talk about the increasing skill in disc golf is the wide availability of form tutorials and guides on the internet. Players getting into disc golf are getting better, quicker. This leads to a faster pipeline to the top for the most talented of these athletes. I've gone over this many times in previous episodes of The Wind Read. It's getting harder to win an MPO, and more players have the potential to win. Based on all of this, we can probably predict that many more new major champions will be crowned soon, right? However, I think there's an alternate way that this can go that's at least worth discussing. I went back and looked at the last few times there was a significant string of new major winners to see what it can possibly tell us about where our game might be headed. The last time this happened was in the early 2010s, where McBeth and Wysocki emerged as the new major winners. From there, their reign began until now. Go back further and we see another significant period of change in the year 2005. Previous to this year, the majors were dominated by the likes of Ken Climo and Barry Schultz, but in 2005, the majors were won by Nate Doss and Dave Feldberg. This ushered in a changing of the guard, and there was significant parity in the winner's circle during this time period. It looks strangely similar to what we see now. From 2005 to 2011, there were 11 different names that won majors. That's a lot. That is, of course, until McBeth and Wysocki arrived on the scene. So looking back at history, so far in the MPO division, there's been somewhat of a cycle. A period of dominance by 1 or 2 players, followed by a period of diversity in the winner's circle and rinse and repeat. The question I pose is, will this cycle continue? And if it does, who is going to be the one to take that leap forward and own the division? Let me know what you think in the comments. In my opinion, it's too soon to call. If there is going to be someone to step up and begin a streak of dominance, they haven't made it apparent yet. My initial thoughts go to Calvin Heimburg, but Calvin, despite his unreal consistency, has fallen short once again on the major stage. In fact, if you look at the last 6 majors Calvin's played in 4 of those, his worst round of the tournament came in the final round. Heimburg entered round 4 of the European Open with a 2-stroke lead and a fantastic opportunity to secure a major, but it didn't unfold that way. I think of maybe Eagle McMahon or Ricky Wysocki, but both have struggled off and on with injury. Eagle has shown flashes of dominance, but never for sustained periods of time. Wysocki showed sustained dominance last year in the Elite Series events, but has been on a nearly 7-year-long major drought. Of course, Paul McBeth hasn't disappeared, he's still McBeast, but he's been unable to sustain the greatness we saw from him in the mid to late 2010s. I really think if this cycle of our game is going to continue and someone is going to eventually step forward as the next great force in MPO, we're going to have to see that Macbeth-esque killer instinct that, to be honest, I think is currently not as present in the division. If there's anyone who might be that guy, it may be the young Gannon Buhr, whose performance at USDGC last year was the most reminiscent of that Macbeth killer instinct I've seen at a major in recent memory. But I think it's still too soon to tell. With no clear frontrunner for major titles in the division at the moment, we're in for a treat this year at Worlds and USDGC. I foresee many close finishes to come. Speaking of close finishes, let's return to the European Open, final round. There were 5 different names that held the lead at one point in time in MPO. It had me on the edge of my seat. Ezra Aderhold strung together a really nice run and was in contention. Kyle Klein might have ran away with this thing if not for a really poor round 2. Of course, we talked about Calvin Heimberg. Eagle McMahon had the potential to go back-to-back if not for a double bogey on hole 3 in the final round. And of course, Anthony Barella. AB is one of the most exciting talents that disc golf has ever seen. He's almost undisputedly the furthest thrower on tour and can do things with the disc that no one else can. The word that's always been associated with Barella is the word potential, but this potential is yet to be fully realized as Anthony again and again struggles to get over the finish line. I genuinely thought that heading into hole 16 on Sunday that this narrative was going to be put to rest. Where AB had struggled historically in the final rounds is with his putting, but AB putted great at the European Open. 92% from C1X and 44% from C2. These are top 10 numbers in the field. AB had a major championship just at his fingertips until hole 16, where the wheels fell off the tracks. It was genuinely heartbreaking because he deserved to be in that position. He'd earned it playing fantastic disc golf all weekend long, but it just slipped from his grasp. AB displayed amazing class, closing out the round after hole 16 and congratulating the eventual winner. Despite this being a recurring theme, I still hold out hope for Anthony Barella. He has all the tools, and we have seen many players build themselves up from instances of heartbreak. And that leads me to Corey Ellis. Ellis winning this major title is the classic feel-good story. I take you back to D-Glow 2022, where Corey Ellis played his heart out only to be out of bounds by 1 inch in a playoff loss to Calvin Heimberg. To be that close but throw it away must have been really tough. Fast forward to the MVP Open 2022, where after playing another weekend of lights out disc golf, all Corey needs is a simple, routine upshot to secure the title at Maple Hill. And we all know the story. He juices it into the gallery out of bounds and is left to listen to the chants of the crowd saying Simon as Lizotte took the title. It was heartbreaking. And the narrative surrounding Corey Ellis was that he could not close the deal. Just this year, Ellis was tied for the lead with 3 holes to go at the Portland Open, but he fell off the pace and couldn't get it done. And then he travels across the pond, participates in the European Open for the first time in his career, and is handed the opportunity of a lifetime after what happened to Barella on 16. With all of the tension in the air and the massive gallery, and he had an upshot that was eerily similar in distance to the one at Maple Hill. He executes perfectly. Corey earned the title this weekend, and he did so in a very interesting way. His stats don't jump off the page this weekend. He was 5th to 15th in the various throwing statistics and really didn't putt to his standard from C1X at 84%. However, the most interesting statistic is Ellis's OB strokes. He had 2 for the whole weekend. That's the best in the over 100 player field by a mile. For context, the average number of OB strokes for the 5 players that finished behind Corey was 11, and this was just from other top finishers. Corey kept it clean and kept it in the fairway and earned him a major title. I'm really interested to see if this trend continues, if new first-time tour winners continue to be added to the list, or if the cycle of our sports history is destined to repeat itself. Only time will tell. Thank you so much for joining me here on The Wind Read. Until the next one.